Going back to Taylor Swift and Pygmies and Joni Mitchell, who you just mentioned, at the beginning of This Is Your Brain on Music, you say that one reason you went back to school to learn about cognitive neuroscience and music was to better understand why some musicians had the it factor that makes them household names. And I've also wondered that and wanted to ask about a few particular musicians to see if you had insight into what was so special about their music and how it interacts with our brains. But Joni Mitchell and Taylor Swift were two of those people actually that I was curious about what it is about their music that has made them so enduring.
I think certainly in the case of Joni, I'll put out a caveat that I think Joni was of a time, and she means something to people of my generation, and possibly to people somewhat younger than me. But I don't think she means much to the average 20-year-old. It was a time and a place. But I could be wrong. But that, from talking to younger people, that's the impression I get.
Yeah, my mom's probably about your age, and she was a California girl. So Joni Mitchell is very important to her, and consequently it sort of rained down on me and my sister.
Yeah, so it was two things with Joni. One was she was writing about, as were some of her contemporaries in the Woodstock generation, writing about the lifestyle and the ideals of the Woodstock generation. The peace and love and take care of the earth and the environment and don't cut down all the trees. And she was also writing about relationships in a very frank, honest, and intimate way, and writing about self-doubt. And for a woman that many people found to be beautiful, to be writing about self-doubt was very affecting. And it was her fearlessness, her willingness to expose things that one normally might not even talk about with one's best friend. Her openness, authenticity, and fearlessness as an artist. And we see this, in painters and sculptors and dancers and writers as well. And her willingness to explore new modes of expression. She lost a lot of her fan base when she made an album with Charlie Mingus, but it's what she wanted to do. And I think even people who didn't like that music respected her in the way they respected Miles Davis for his going rock and roll with Bitches Brew and, just constantly exploring the real artist's nature. I think people who are not, whether you're an artist or not, there's a certain amount of admiration we have for people that are constantly pushing themselves and willing to grow and not being complacent. Certainly, I feel that way about scientists that push themselves and don't just rest on their laurels, and writers, everybody, politicians. And then Taylor had a similar, with her first album, a similar self-examination and a similar confessional introspective style. I have to say that I haven't followed her since then. So I couldn't say. I mean, it's not my jam, but people seem to respond to her in very powerful ways. And I just heard on NPR yesterday that one of the major magazines has assigned a beat reporter to her full time and another one to Beyonce. And, I think they are having an effect on people the way the Beatles and Joni did on me and Miles. And I think that's great. But if you're asking me what the appeal is, I would speculate it has to do with some sense of authenticity and an intimacy and a giving expression to things that most people don't talk about.
Well, I hear everything you said. So, open with regard to Joni, I mean openness, authenticity, and fearlessness. But what I expected you to say was something about the mechanics of a song like California, which is my favorite. That makes it become an earworm. But maybe I should ask if, and this is the last thing I'll ask in ending our conversation.
Oh, well, could I
is
interject?
if
Could I interject there?
Yeah, yeah.
I, I think I love talking about the mechanics of songs, and most of my friends are songwriters, and we do spend a lot of time talking about the mechanics. But ultimately, the mechanics are there to serve the authenticity, not the other way around. And it's fun to kind of deconstruct something and figure out how it works and what's going on in it from a technical standpoint. But if there isn't authentic expression behind it, who cares?
Well, that's a good point. That's what I was going to ask, because authenticity is in ending. Authenticity is in general not what people associate with pop music. It's something about the mechanics of the song, the sounds that are going on that make them so infectious. And I was wondering if in ending you have any insight into what it is about current pop music that makes it so infectious, just to use that word again. Or maybe it's not really an enduring feature of the music, and it's just something, it's fleeting, it's just the taste of the time.
Well, great question. So I think I would make a distinction between pop music, meaning popular music, and art music. And the line isn't clear. It's probably what Dom Mazzaro would call a fuzzy boundary. But there are some clear cases on either side where something is clearly one and not the other. If you want to think of it as Wittgenstein and his categories and family resemblance is a way to think, perhaps conceptualize it. But I think of a lot of what Joni did as art, and some of it became popular. I think a lot of what we hear on the radio is designed to be consumed by the masses. It's more like the wall-hanging art you would buy at Target to put on a hotel room wall. You know, it's supposed to be there and entertain you, but not require a lot of deep thought. It's the background to a party. It's the soundtrack to a day at the beach. It's fun, and I like a lot of fun music like that. I'm not a snob. I love a good pop song. I love Paula Abdul when she came out. And I was just listening to, I don't even know the names of all the artists anymore, but, there are people making records now that are doing that same kind of thing. It's fun, pop, light music. So where's the authenticity there? Well, the authenticity there is to an art form, which is, an art form which is popular music, an art form which has its own rules and its own, how to put it? It's, when I think of Twisted Sister or Motley Crue or Kiss, theatrical rock, glam rock, I think that's the best analogy I can think of to most of what's on the pop music charts, which is that it's made for a certain conception of fun music, and that's a thing, and that's it's not an authentic expression of the artist's inner angst necessarily or self-exploration. It's playing around with a different form. That's all.